live BarkerCast audio commentaries.
Thanks to your generous donations to our Kickstarter funding campaign,
Clive Barker Podcast presents Fundraiser IX.
Celebrations!
All right. Well, welcome to episode 499 of the Clive Barker Podcast. And we have our special guest, Pete Atkins. And
Hello,
we're
guys.
going to be watching Wishmaster from 1997, directed by Robert Kurtzman and written by Peter Atkins.
Oh, that guy.
Hi, Pete.
Yeah.
Nice to have you again.
Yeah.
Great to see you, fellas.
As I was reviewing, I was looking at Wishmaster. I have to admit, I've seen the first one 3 or 4 times, and I'm not sure if I've seen the sequels. I need to go back and watch them again. But you've got a writing credit on all 4 of them. So my question is, how involved were you in the writing of those, like 2 through 4?
No involvement whatsoever.
It's mainly about the character creation.
Well,
and
the
stuff?
credit on the sequel, and by the way, I haven't seen them either. But
Yeah.
but I did watch the title sequence to check. The credit that you're talking about, Ryan, is a guild, a Writers Guild of America mandated credit.
Okay.
Which is just based on characters created by.
Yeah, like Clive gets put into the
Yes,
sequels.
exactly.
Yeah.
The equivalent credit that Clive gets on the. I mean, again, I haven't watched the direct-to-video Hellraiser sequels, but I assume
Yeah.
there is a based on characters created by Clive Barker
Yes.
on those, and I do know they were diligent and kind. And put based on characters created by Peter Atkins on. Certainly on Wishmaster 2 and Wishmaster 3, I think, because they're obliged by union contract to award the credit. I don't think they technically have to make it a front-end credit. It was a front-end credit on 2 and 3. I think on 4, I'd pissed them off enough by bad-mouthing the previous sequels that they just put it. It's a back-end credit. It's in
and 4. I watched the trailer. It doesn't even have Andrew Divoff in it. It's some other guy.
3 and 4 does not have him. Andy's in number 2, and I'm really glad that Andy, got to revisit. One of the. This is somebody else's words, not mine. So it's not narcissism to say it. He got to revisit the last great character horror. I can't remember the phrasing, but the point the person was making was that although it was 97 when Wishmaster came out, the Djinn who Andy plays is, well, this is very flattering to us, but the point they were making was Leatherface, Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, Pinhead. As opposed to just like psycho movies, the monster character. And they were kind enough to say the Djinn was the last in that line, which of course is not true because eventually Little Jigsaw on his bike from
when did I Know What You Did Last Summer come out, right? Because that's got the Gordon's Fisherman guy on.
And Scream had, even though Scream, I think that was the point that was being made, that there was a sort of division between character horror, whatever that thing is called, guys in masks.
The slasher, it's not a slasher,
right.
but the monster, the creature.
Right. A division between that and what became in the late 90s and through into the 2000s, the next wave, the sort of knowing horror, self-referential horror, and eventually torture porn. As
almost like
Saw is kind Saw. That's the fictional movie inside Scream, right? No, Stab is the fictional movie.
Oh,
Stab is the fictional movie.
Yeah.
But even Scream, which is seen as the
Yeah.
first of that, next wave of horror, Ghostface,
Yeah.
Ghostface is
Right.
eye with a mask on. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
so
little more
nothing ever
like
stops.
Scooby-Doo
But
kind of villain. It's
Yeah.
there's that, it's not really a monster. It's all human is the monster. He's
well,
a serial
right.
Well,
killer.
No,
yeah,
good
and in
point. Yeah.
Scream, it's different people in every movie, isn't it?
Every movie,
I think,
right?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
But
and
Yeah,
I see the
exactly.
point.
It's merely cosplay for those fuckers. But
I
yeah,
still think that your script helped launch a new horror icon in the form of the malevolent Djinn, and I think
yeah,
he's
God
he's
bless
here
you.
to stay. Yeah, no, definitely. I think he's a creature. He's a mythological creature that we haven't seen used a lot in movies, except for
yeah.
those classic ones like the voyages of Sinbad and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. Certainly, you
Yeah,
see gins and genies in different formats.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, in the beginning of it
FIFA
made me think
Baghdad
of,
has a great genie, right?
and the beginning opening sequence of this movie totally made me feel like I was watching Sinbad movies. I loved that.
Oh, well, great.
Yeah,
Tribute was being paid all the way through that. Well, at
yeah,
least, from
There's
my part,
definitely
tribute was
references,
being
right?
paid all the way
yeah.
through. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm that generation. I was born in 1955, late 1955. Um, but so those Ray Harryhausen, Golden Voyage of Sinbad, Seven Voyage of Sinbad, Jason and the Argonauts, all that stuff. Yeah, we love that. You
Sinbad
have
and
to
the Eye of
be
the Tiger was the first movie I ever saw in the theater. My dad took me,
really,
and
that's great.
I was like 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Do you have a
fantastic.
memory of it, or have you just been told by your
The
parents?
only thing I remembered was they're walking through the woods or through the jungle, and a guy falls into a hole and disappears, and that was
Right.
so terrifying to me. I'm like, that could happen to me. Are you just walking along, and all of a sudden you fall into a hole?
Who you right?
Yeah.
That's like the great quicksand scare of the
Yes.
20th
Yeah.
century.
As a kid, I thought quicksand was everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not even a real thing. And I just found
It's
that out
not
like
even a
6 years
real
ago.
thing. I know.
It's
Oh,
like,
really?
what? Yeah,
I literally
I didn't know.
Yeah, I believed it. It could
Yeah.
yeah.
Don't
Terrifying.
struggle or you'll sink deeper.
Right.
It was a
Yeah.
great way to get rid of characters that you didn't want in your story anymore. Oh, he walked into quicksand. There he goes.
Quicksand got him.
Yeah, the
The
quicksand.
quicksand that was just handily just outside town or
Yeah. So,
round the
and
corner.
part of the magic of Wishmaster watching it is the casting, right? I mean, were you writing it with some of these, cameo sort of in mind, like
Well, yes, I know.
Robert Englund and
Sure.
Tony Todd and
Mhm.
Kane Hodder.
yes, right,
Oh yeah,
right.
Ted Raimi.
Yeah, Ted Raimi. Why is he always
Reggie
die?
Bannister.
Everything Ted Raimi goes into, he
Squashed.
dies horribly.
Oh,
Squashed.
that's Ted's choice. It's written into his contract. He will not do a movie
Ah.
unless you kill him on screen.
Yeah.
That's a joke. I've no idea. You literalists out there, don't quote me in future. No, but it's an interesting question, right? It was yes and no is the answer in the following sense. Without doubt, the movie, both the script and the eventual movie are a celebration and a school reunion for horror. When I was writing the script, I couldn't necessarily, obviously, if somebody had said, write whoever you like into the script, I would have said after every character name, possibly to be played by Robert Englund. But
Yeah.
of course, I didn't do that. What I did do was stud it with Easter eggs for horror nerds.
Yeah.
Every character name and a lot of place names in Wishmaster are horror authors, or
Yeah.
I think primarily horror authors. I might have put a couple of actor names in there, but you got there's Blackwoods and Etchisons and Cleggs,
Beaumonts.
Beaumonts,
Derleth.
and Finneys.
Derleth
Yeah.
from August
Yeah.
Derleth. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and Wendy Derleth, the professor.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it was very much. I mean, in no way. I want to be clear. It wasn't like a wink, wink, because it's a love letter to the genre
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
doing
It's
that.
not like an indulgence. It's more like a homage.
Right. And
Yeah.
also, let's not delude ourselves that every horror movie fan is a horror literature scholar. That those references are not going to distract most people from
Right. Yeah.
from enjoying the movie. But then when um, we can go back if you like to how the whole thing came to be, but we also don't have to if the movie's rolling and we're just telling stories. By the time we were lucky enough to get Bob on board, Robert Kurtzman, who was going
Hmm.
to direct it, I think I'd done two or three drafts, and then they said, what do you think of Robert Kurtzman? And I said, the K of KNB? Are you kidding? Of course.
Yeah.
Um, oh, by the way, for future would-be screenwriters out there, don't take what I've just said as an implication that the writer has any say in the hiring of
Mm.
the director. If you're also the producer of the movie, you
Mhm.
might have a say in it. But we all it was a very nice team, and they were kind enough to ask my opinion, and I said, yeah, Bob Kurtzman, fucking great.
Yeah.
Um, because apart from anything else, although it wasn't this shallow emotive in my head, as soon as they said that, I realized, oh, that means we get KNB at employee rates. It's
Right, right. Greg Nicotero and
yeah, right.
Eric.
That there's a huge
Yeah.
advantage there.
Well, and it
But
shows.
yeah, right, right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's fantastic. Well, yes, absolutely. There were two effect shops on the movie, and we'll talk about that when it comes up. Um, but what I was going to say, to get back to your first question, Ryan, was once Bob was on board, he and I clicked immediately, obviously, because we're both monster kids and we love all this shit.
Yeah.
And I can't remember at what point he said. And I can't remember. It might have been Robert Englund. It might have been Kane. But he said, "Oh, we could get X to play this," and I said it as a joke. I think I said something about because of course Robert or KNB in general
Yeah.
had
Mhm.
put makeup on all these people in all the previous
Oh,
movies.
yeah.
And I think I made a joke about his Rolodex. I said, "Oh Christ, yeah, you've got them all in your Rolodex, haven't you?" And and then I don't want to take credit for what happened because then either because I'd made that joke or because Robert had always intended to do this, I don't know. Um, he suddenly opened up the Rolodex and made these well, the production made these
Yeah.
calls on our behalf. And so yeah, so it became very consciously who can we get, who can we pull in? And and they were all in Bob's phone book. It was
Right.
Yeah.
that was our. I mean, not that the production company couldn't have found out who their agents were, but we could get hold of them. And the only one I can take credit for is Tony Todd because not that I worked on Candyman, but obviously, friend of the family kind of thing.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so I'd met Tony a couple of times. So Shannon Golding, who was the production executive
Yeah.
at not Pierre David's company, but the company that eventually became Artisan, but they were then called Live Entertainment. Anyway,
Yeah.
Shannon was our production exec, and she said, um, either Tony Todd won't take our calls or something like that. And she
Mhm.
said, can I get you on a conference call with him? And can you get him in our movie? Um, so I said, well, God, I've only met the guy twice, but yeah, let's have a chat. Um, and so we got on the phone with Tony, and I guess they'd shown him the pages,
Mhm.
which yeah, a whole page and a half
Hmm.
of the doorman at the club or
Yeah.
wherever the hell it is.
Johnny Copacetic. No, that was in the original.
Well,
Johnny
yeah, no, that
Valentine.
yeah, exactly. That's the story.
Yeah.
So Antonio was being very friendly and nice, but basically he was saying it's a bit part. Why I don't know whether I should come in and do this. And then um, he said, "Thank God," because it's what did the trick. He said, "I mean, the guy doesn't even have a name." And I thought, oh shit, yeah.
Yeah.
But I instantly said, oh no, of course he has a name. Of course he has a name. Sorry, yeah, you must have an earlier draft, Tony.
Uh-huh.
And he could tell I was bullshitting. And he said, yeah, what's his name? And I said desperately, I said, well, he's really cool, Tony. His name is Johnny Copacetic. And Tony laughed, which was great because I thought, oh, maybe we got him. But he said, that's a little on the nose, don't you think?
Yeah.
And I said,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right, you're right. Fuck, 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 I'm thinking inside. And I was in the middle, or I just finished writing my second novel, Big Thunder.
Mm.
There's a there's an evil protagonist in that book called Valentine Dyson.
Hmm.
And so as soon as Tony said it's a little on the nose, I said, yeah, no, you're right. How about Johnny Valentine? And and thank God, Tony said,
Yeah.
oh, that's kind of cool. And
Good
and then we
job.
just started talking, and
That was the hook.
that was the
Yeah.
hook. Yeah. So I do take full credit for
Yeah.
getting Tony into the movie, but
All
but
right.
everybody else, um, like we said, Robert, Kane, I
Yeah.
don't want to miss anybody, Reggie Bannister,
Oh,
Ted
right.
Lin,
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
um, and others. And then the great one for me, well, not the great one, they're all great. It was fantastic they were in the movie. But let's say the cherry on the cake, the icing on the cake, was in post-production. Um, they were going to record the voiceover I'd written for the opening of the movie.
Hmm.
Listen well, oh best beloved. And I don't think it was Shannon, I think it was Clark Peterson who was the hands-on producer of the movie. Um, Pierre David was executive producer, but
Yeah.
Clark and Dave Trippett were the our producers, the guys who were on set with us. Um,
And Wes Craven was also an executive
was
producer,
an
right?
executive producer,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes. And which means I got to meet Wes twice, so that was the
Oh,
plus
that's
for that.
great.
Wes was not, I'm sure I'm not telling tales out of school now because it's 30 years later. I mean, Wes's credit was, to get his name on the movie, basically. But he had read the script. He wouldn't agree to put his name on unless he liked the script, and God bless him, he did.
Of course.
And I met him a couple of times, and he was very nice. He was also, because obviously he and Bob had worked together before, and I gather from Bob, Wes was particularly great in post-production. He wandered into the editing room and would just sort of
Oh,
point at the screen where Bob and the editor were doing his stuff, and would say, something very professionally specific, like maybe 5 frames less on that cut, or
Oh,
something.
wow.
And
wow.
apparently was great, and
Oh,
and was so that's very nice to know. But what I was going to say was I got a call from Clark, I believe Clark Peterson, might have been Dave Trippett, and he said where they're recording the voiceover, and he was just letting me know. And they'd got Angus Scrimm, the tall man from
Yeah.
Phantasm, to do the opening voiceover. So sadly, I never got to meet Angus. This was just in a recording studio somewhere else during
oh,
post-production. But that was like I say, the bow on the present.
Yeah.
We'd had all these great guys in the movie, and then it's like, surprise, we got one last little treat. We
That's
have the
great.
tall man to say, listen well, oh best man. And he,
Yeah.
and he nailed it. He did a
yeah,
great
yeah,
job.
yeah, yeah.
I
Once
got to
upon a
meet
time,
him.
before time, God breathed life into the universe and that stuff, right? In the
I
beginning.
got to
Oh,
meet
yeah,
him one time at
exactly.
a
All that
convention, and
bullshit.
actually, I was going up an elevator or coming down an elevator, and he got in the elevator with me, and
Hmm.
he said, "Oh, hello, nice to meet you. Where are you headed?" I said, "Actually, I'm headed in to get in line to go meet
Did you
you."
go? Did you want me? Yeah, do you want to sign it now?
Yeah, and he asked me a lot about living in Alaska and stuff during the. So
Oh,
he had a
Oh,
really
good.
long line because he would spend a lot of time asking questions and talking to people.
oh,
He
that's
was a really
awesome.
great guy.
That's nice. That's great. That's great. And yeah, that was one of the joys of the movie is exactly that it was this kind of class reunion
Yeah.
for the class of the 80s, I guess. It
Hmm.
was like it was an 80s horror Valentine, Goodbye,
Yeah.
Valedictory. Um, yeah. Oh, sorry, we got we got off on that because I was saying I hadn't seen the sequels, but I was glad that Andy got to play the role twice rather than just once, which, helps secure him in that character horror pantheon. And then I
Yeah.
believe in 3 and 4, which they shot back to back, Chris Angel directed them. Jack Shoulder did number two.
Oh,
Mm.
Chris Angel did 3 and 4. He might have done the screenplays as well. I'm not sure,
Oh,
or he
okay.
directed them. But it was unlike Andy, who played both the Djinn and Demarest, the Djinn in human form.
Hmm.
I believe in 3 and 4 we have the second name was Novak.
right.
In costume, it's somebody Novak
John
played
Novak. Mhm.
John Novak. Okay, yeah. But I think the human villain, the human form, is Sean Connery's kid, is Jason Connery, I
Oh,
think.
wow. It is. Yeah.
Oh,
Huh.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
wow.
Yeah, which is sort of nice.
He's
Yeah,
a
that's
British
interesting.
actor and director. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he plays the creature, the Wishmaster
He
creature
he
in the third
plays the
one?
human form.
A human form.
John
Okay.
Novak plays the Djinn in
Ah.
costume.
Oh, I see. I see.
And
Oh,
by the
that's
way, like I said, I literally haven't seen the movies. I'm assuming because Jason Connery is the villain, that is the Djinn in human form. I don't actually know that. He
Oh,
might
okay.
be somebody who summons the Djinn, but he's the bad guy. But I think
right.
it's that. I think that, like
Yeah.
Andy was human and demonic. I think the thing was split in 3 and 4.
One of the things that I really love in Wishmaster is the sequence, not just the opening sequence where the opal is created, which looks like a giant ruby of sorts, but
Mhm.
the part where Tammy Lauren plays Alex, right? So she has this
Yeah.
friend who's going to analyze the stone in the university, and he shines a laser on it and activates kind of like the
Right.
process that releases the
Don't
gin.
mock my science, Joe. I mean, we don't know that that wouldn't awaken ancient
Of course,
entity
that
within the
laser
fire
hit the
opal. Yeah,
impurity and it provided the energy for the interdimensional.
Yeah.
Anyway,
exactly. Don't
right.
Yeah.
fuck with those spectrometers. You never know what'll happen.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I've used them. Anyway, so the way that it's almost like Frank Resurrection when you see that weird goopy creature on the floor
Oh, and
moving
he's
Sure.
towards
crawling. Yeah. And he's
Oh
crawling
yeah, no, he's
the
forward.
great.
scientist. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's got those things coming out of like his back into his head, and he's got like a head like a Mars Attacks alien. It's a
Right,
really interesting proto form of the Jinn, but
Yeah.
the way that he comes out and creates his own body and then takes over the body of the character that's played by Andrew Divoff at a morgue, right? The way he
Yeah.
does it is he cuts the corpse's face and puts his face on his own like a mask, and that's what makes him take his form. And I thought that
right.
was such a cool transformation
Yeah.
sequence and gruesome, of course.
Yeah.
Gruesome is always good, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. And just sort of, I was going to say trivial. It's not trivial at all. Credit where credit's due. The proto form of the Jinn is Mini Me from Vern Troyer is
Vern
Oh.
Mini Me
Troyer.
from what
Oh.
the hell, Austin Powers,
That's
right?
Right.
right. Oh,
And he was great.
Yeah.
yeah. I was
It
listening to
was
the commentary track
was it
that you
before?
recorded.
It was before Austin Powers, was it, or
It
around the
was,
same
yes, I
time?
think. Yeah, I think it
Yeah,
was before. Yeah. That's fantastic. I didn't know it was him.
yeah,
That's crazy.
right.
Vern
Well,
Troyer.
that's why I think it was before because we didn't know it was him either. It was like Vern was great, but yeah, I don't think when I met him, I don't remember thinking, "Whoa, we got mini me."
The
Like Andy, he had to suffer through the makeup process, and then
Sure.
Mm.
And then
and
all
like
the
you,
dry ice
great
that was
creature.
on the floor, right? Because the
Right,
dry ice
right,
Yeah.
is CO2, so you can't really breathe if you're crawling on the floor on that dry
sure,
ice.
sure,
Yeah.
So for our people who want to follow along,
yes.
you
Where
can
are
spin
where
up
are we
your
currently?
DVD or Blu-ray, or you can watch it. It's this one and number two right now. If you have Amazon Prime service, they're free on there. 3 and 4, you still have to pay, like buy them or rent them or whatever. But 1 and 2 right now, at least, are free on Amazon Prime, so people can follow along with us. So we'll start at the live entertainment logo at the beginning of
Sure.
that.
Yeah, and we'll just keep talking about it.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh
I
God,
think
I thought we were 20 minutes in. I didn't
Oh
realize
no, we
we
hadn't
hadn't
started yet.
started yet.
So Pete, do you want to count down until they press play?
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Three, two, one. As you wish.
All
Play.
right. There we go.
chills, chills.
I love his I love Andrew Drivov's voice in the way he says,
I
"I
know.
grant wishes."
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
very
Do you know,
slit.
do you know Andy speaks, I think it's literally 8 languages.
Oh,
It's
really?
Oh,
certainly five or more.
wow, that's
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's what do you say in English?
It's a
Polyglot,
polylinguist or polyglot?
a cunning
Polyglot, I
linguist.
guess.
There you
Because
go.
glot is tongue, glottal. Yeah.
That's
Polyglot.
right. That's where it comes from. Yeah, but yeah. So Wishmaster, it has an interesting opening sequence when they're making that opal, and it starts almost in the past, almost like in Bloodline. When I'm sorry, I can't help but make this little
Keep
comparison.
making those analogies. I'm
Yeah.
constantly ripping myself off.
I
You're
know it's like because the Hellraiser for Bloodline also kind of opens with like someone making something like an artifact of
Yeah.
Oh,
magic.
good point. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and when the queen wants to or the king wants to see a spectacle and he's like just ripping into all these people and all these horrible things are happening, it reminded me of Hellraiser 3 in the boiler room.
oh sure, yeah,
Yeah.
that
Sure.
sequence is very
Sure.
reminiscent of that.
Yeah.
But Tammy Lauren, right? She does a great job in this movie.
Great
She's so
job.
good. Yeah, she delivers a very grounded and resonant performance as Alex. Did you write the character with a certain kind of actor in mind?
No, not a certain kind of actor, and I didn't. I'd certainly never met Tammy before the movie,
Mhm.
and to be honest, I'm not sure I had. I'm sure I had seen some of her work, but
Yeah,
no, I tend unless
she had
unless I'm
been
writing
on
sequels to
TV, I
Hellraiser.
think. Yeah,
Oh,
she
what'd
had
you
been
say?
on TV. I think she had been on like things like The Facts of Life or Who's the Boss and Family
Sure,
Ties. She
sure,
had showed up in
yeah,
that. And then in the 90s, I think she was in the series called Homefront and The Young and the
yeah.
Restless, which is kind of a soap opera, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh no, yeah, yeah, she's completely legit and great. I just I was taking you literally as was I writing in the hopes of and
Oh, I see.
no, I don't want that to sound rude. I was like, no, I wasn't writing hoping we get um we should be so lucky as to get Tammy in anything you write. But more generally speaking, I don't write for like Dreamcasts. I don't write hoping
Right.
Yeah.
because you rarely get
Yeah.
as we were
Weird.
saying in the opening discussion, we were very lucky to get all the people we got in Wishmaster, but
Yeah.
you can't assume you're going to get the people you might want when you're writing it. So unless I'm writing sequels to Hellraiser,
Yeah. Now
where
we're on the
I know
Angus
I've got
Scrimm
Doug
narration.
or Ashley, um, yeah, you just write the character, not
Mm.
yeah.
I like the way that you've incorporated the Jinn mythology. So did I think I remember you saying something in the commentary track with Greg Nicotero that someone gave you like 100 pages of research about jinns when you were going to create this script? Or
Yeah, and I read at least three of them. Yeah,
yeah, there you go.
absolutely. No, well, again, it shows how obviously the movie feels relatively recent to me, but it's 30 years old.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, obviously, technically, it wasn't pre-internet by any means, but we were all really effectively still living in a pre-internet world on a day-to-day base. So it does seem very antediluvian now when I think of it. But
Oh my God,
yeah, the
antediluvian.
people at Pierre David's company had, just like you used to have to do, they had gone to the library and they had pulled out encyclopedias and reference books and Xeroxed pages from said encyclopedias and reference books. Um, and proudly handed them over to me. And even as they handed them over, I thought, "Oh, that's sweet," but
That's too
I'm
much.
probably I'm probably not going to read a lot of this. Um, but I read enough to know that Djinns and Efrits were the not necessarily demonic, but they were the elemental forces within several um, theologies or mythoses.
Pre-Islamic, right?
Um, well, yeah, pre-Islamic for sure. I chose to make it specifically Zoroastrian in the
Mm,
movie, but they are
right,
not, in fact, exclusive to Zoroastrianism. The
right.
useful thing for, go ahead,
With
Joe.
the introduction of the god Ahura Mazda, right?
Exactly.
Right.
That was what was useful for me because, being trapped in the Western tradition, the Judeo-Christian notion of, the God and the antagonist, it was just useful to have Ahura Mazda as a monotheistic deity and his opposite, um, because that's how our minds tend to work. And but yeah, like I say, Jinns and Ifrits are not exclusive to Zoroastrianism, and again to demonstrate my appalling Western-centric mindset.
Uh-huh.
Um, I was a week into the shoot of the movie, and a young woman, I think she worked in the camera department, but it might have been props, I'm not sure. But and we chatted before, but she came over and said, "I just wanted to let you know I'm a Zoroastrian." And I thought, "What? Fucking hell." Because I thought it was the equivalent of saying I'm a follower of the Mithras cult,
Yeah.
or
Right,
I believe in the gods of Egypt.
right.
But I'm a stupid, ignorant Westerner, and Zoroastrianism is not only is still around, but has, it's not like it was revived recently. It's a real religion with real adherents, and
Yeah.
thank thank whichever god, possibly Ahura Mazda, thank the gods that I had not been in any way offensive or reductionist about Zoroastrianism and its tenets,
Oh,
because
sure.
kidding aside, I would have hated for that to be the case, but
Hmm.
this girl, um, the crew was all so young, but she was a Zoroastrian, and thought it was just fine that
Right.
she was happy
Well,
to work on this movie.
Oh,
oh,
that's great.
excellent. Yeah, I mean, Zoroastrianism is still ongoing, but I don't think it has a lot of expression. According to Wikipedia, it says there might be about 120,000 Zoroastrians in the world. So that's just an idea. But you got to meet one on
Yeah,
set of this movie.
well,
There you go.
Well, I think isn't
we've
the whole thing of it is that the God and the antagonist of God are equal and opposite.
right,
Right,
Yeah.
right.
right,
That the shadow of Ahura Mazda
yeah,
creates the
exactly
Yeah.
right, yeah,
space for the entity that represents the duality of good and evil.
yeah.
Um,
And
but
by the way, again, just to nitpick, but you say I met one Zoroastrian. I actually met two
Oh, there you go.
because decades cut to 25 years later, Andy, me, and the great Harry Manfredini, who we managed to get to do the
composer.
score for the movie,
Yeah.
we were at the Los Feliz 3, local to me, for the 25th anniversary screening of Wishmaster. And once again, in the meet and greet after the screening, this time, okay, I'm about to use the phrase an older lady. I'm using that phrase merely to stress that the lady who spoke to me when we were making the movie was, 21.
Mhm.
This lady was older than that. She was a grown woman. But she came up with her husband or boyfriend, and I think she was an associate professor of religions somewhere, but she too was well, I don't know whether she was practicing any more than I'm a practicing
Right.
Catholic. She was technically a Zoroastrian. And
Ah.
she too, let me
Yeah.
off the hook by saying, yeah, not offensive at all.
There you go.
So that's the bare minimum you've got to meet, right?
All right.
Yeah.
Not offensive at all. Okay.
There you go.
Everything else is a bonus.
Yeah.
So the premise of the story is that so the Djinns come out of the gem, and then they have to
Spoiler.
charge the gem with souls before having to coax the person who awakened them to make 3 wishes, at the end of which the other Djinn get to cross over into our world and take over, right? So that's the plot of
That's
this whole thing.
great. Is that what it's about? My God, no.
I know. I know. I'm just explaining
Yeah.
to the writer
No.
what his movie is
No,
about.
that
But
wasn't the
I
point of
was
my joke was not an attack
right.
on you, Joe. The point of my joke is I really should have watched this movie again before
Oh.
before we did.
Well, and it's in the tradition of like the monkey's paw. The wishes usually turn out horrible.
100%. Yeah,
So
no,
they turn
that's
out
what I
horrible
was
for these
stealing
people,
from.
and they lose their souls in addition to, not getting really what they wanted.
That's right.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
The ironic wish thing obviously is the running motif, and that was Monkey's Paw is the grandfather of all those stories. Um, but yeah, we had to up the stakes a bit. It's a fucking monster movie,
Yeah.
So,
Right. Right.
yeah.
But poor Raimi gets squashed by this giant crate that's being lifted
Yeah.
out of a boat. Robert Englund plays Beaumont,
Yes.
the antique collector. He's
Antique
a
collector.
very interesting character. He's got a gigantic house that's almost like a museum. He's like a
A lot of money to be made in that antiquities collecting.
oh certainly, yeah. I mean, he's almost like before there were any billionaires. It's like he's one of those billionaires, but he collects.
See how prescient this movie was, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he collects statues of gods. But there's always kind of a dark side to Beaumont, right? He's very kind of weaselly, kind of serpentine kind of
Yeah.
fellow. It
Yeah,
feels like
we used to talk about millionaires and never
Yeah, no,
billionaire.
I
Yeah.
know. Now
Yeah.
it's all cranked up
Yeah.
billionaires. Yeah, no, exactly. He does. If we were making the movie now, yes, this would clearly we would be pointing the finger at the Bezoses and Musks and
Yeah.
whoever's of the, except you would wish they had the fucking taste to collect photos of gods of photos, artifacts of gods of antiquities, and I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Right.
Well, I shouldn't be so dismissive. I'm not a personal acquaintance of Bezos or Musk or Zuckerberg. For
Yeah.
all I know, they're, deeply and profoundly interested in things other than phallic rocket ships. But,
right.
that seems to be where their main interest is.
Yeah.
Ryan,
But
this
yeah, Beaumont is exactly that sort of character.
Yeah.
You're right, Joe. And, is played. Robert Englund just nails it. He's great.
he does an amazing job being very weaselly, and I love especially the part where Alex goes to talk to Beaumont about the statue, and she says, "Well, first of all, sorry about what happened." It's like, "Yeah, it was a nice statue." "No, I meant your
right.
assistant who died."
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, of course. One
Well,
of a
yeah,
kind.
no,
Yeah.
exactly. He delivers that. Oh, of course.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, right.
But if I always wondered, because it's unclear to me, and I guess of course you're not going to be able to answer that because that's up to the viewer, but I always wondered if Beaumont had some knowledge that something about that statue was important other than the archaeological value of it. I always wondered if he knew that something was trapped in it,
Right.
and that's why he was getting it. But I guess that depends on the viewer.
Well, all was to be made clear in our projected sequel, which was not the sequel. I'm lying.
Well,
I had no
I mean,
future thoughts about
Okay.
any
he
of that.
wasn't looking for the fire opal when the statue got smashed on the
Right.
pier.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I don't think
Gotcha,
he
gotcha.
doesn't seem like he knew.
Yeah.
In my head, it was a happy accident, but
Yeah.
hidden intentions, as Brian Eno says.
Right. Yeah.
I just love the art direction and all the sets and all the stuff that's behind every single scene. That's pretty
Yeah.
amazing. I imagine this was all shot mostly in a set. How often were you on set while they were shooting the movie?
Throughout, I was, and again, to people who might be interested in writing for the movies, it's extremely unusual for the writer to be present at all, never mind
Yeah.
throughout. But I've been pretty lucky on, or was pretty lucky back in the day on the movies I did. I was very much a continuing presence through the productions of all of them except Bloodline, which, as we've talked about in the past,
Right.
gents, fell apart in so many different ways. But Wishmaster, yeah, I was there all the time throughout. And in fact, um, this was very, I don't think I've ever said this publicly, and in case he listens, I should finally say it. Um, everybody on set um, has, whether you're the director or not, you have what they call director's chairs, those canvas chairs
Hmm.
that, and they automatically make chairs for, you know, whether it's two, three, or four, the actors whose names are above the title,
Hmm.
and for the producer and for the director, and I think often for the DP, and they have these nice embroidered, whatever that bit is called, the canvas bit that is on the back of the chair.
Oh yeah.
Um, and of course, they don't have, there isn't a sort of pre-created writer thing. So obviously I had my own director's chair, but it was just a blank canvas thing. And then about a week into the shoot, Dave Trippett, who I'd mentioned earlier, who was, I think technically he's credited as associate producer, but he was the other on-set producer with Clark Peterson. And he walked up one morning and said, stand up, stand up, and then whipped the canvas thing away from the back and popped on my canvas thing
Oh,
in the fancy scarlet embroidery with
Oh
Peter
wow, that's
Atkins'
great.
writer, which was really,
oh.
now that meant he'd spent a little bit of the movie's budget on getting that made for me. So, maybe that would have given us one more,
Mm.
but it was a really nice gesture and
Oh,
That's great.
very much appreciated. And I don't think I've ever said that out loud. So, Dave, if you're listening, thank you again for doing that. That was very nice. And I still have it somewhere.
so you
In
get to keep the back of the chair once you're done with the
Yeah.
production.
Well, if on the last day of production you think I'm fucking having that and
Yeah.
There you
walk
go.
off with it,
Nobody
nobody
else is going to
formally
use it.
present.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think everybody does. I think
Right.
everybody takes
Right.
the
Yeah.
the thing home, and then you buy your own director's chair and shove it on, which
Oh,
I
This
haven't done. It's
this
it's
might
in
be
the
the only movie in history where the protagonist is a gem appraiser and a basketball coach.
Hey,
Yeah,
multi-talented girl.
that's right.
yeah.
Don't limit female opportunity in the workplace,
No.
Ryan. Come on, we're
No,
past
I
that.
think it's great.
Hashtag time's
I
up,
love that.
man. Come
Yeah.
on.
But I have to say, apart from getting your own chair on set, it must have been really satisfying because this script over here, and I'm not sure if this is shooting script, but this script has been translated so directly into the movie that I was reading the script while I
Sure.
was watching the movie. Most that was changed was just the place where certain scenes happened,
Yeah,
moved
right.
around a little bit. But everything else, dialogue and everything, it's pretty much taken page for page out of the script.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really happen a
That's
lot, does it?
cool.
Well, it does if you're good, Joe.
Yeah, there you go. Of
All
course.
these writers who complain about the script getting changes, well, you should have done a better job in the fucking first place, shouldn't
There
you?
you go.
Um,
Yeah.
no, again, touch wood. I was until Bloodline. I was extremely lucky
Mhm.
with all the productions I was involved with, both in terms of most of the people on the thing, but specifically, I, I am still friends to this day with Tony Randall,
Yeah,
Bob Kurtzman, and sadly, as you know, we lost Tony Hickox a couple of years ago
that's
from
right.
Hellraiser 3. But yeah, I bonded pretty quickly with all of them, and so so rather than me assuming, oh, it's just high quality work, they're not going to mess with it.
Yeah.
I just assume as well, we were friends. They're not going to be so rude as to not shoot what. actually, kidding aside, what I should say, again, for anybody who might be interested in a future career, you do hear writers complain justifiably an awful lot about people messing with the script and changing the script.
Yeah.
And
Or rewriting it.
well, yeah, yeah, well, yeah, they will hire another person to do that. That absolutely happens as well. Um, but what I want to say is people are a little careless in how I mean, the writers themselves often. They're careless in how they talk about it, and they give people the sense that that happens on set, that like the director and the DP and the actors just think on the day, oh yeah, we're not going to shoot that. Let's do this instead. And
Hmm.
on very rare occasions, obviously that can happen. You can go with the flow, you can have an improv moment, whatever. But what people need to remember is this is a business and it's budgeted. So that is extremely rare. You shoot the script, all that stuff that the writers talk about, it's all true most of the time. But that usually happens during the development process, not once the cameras are rolling. Now, on a huge, high budget, more money than sense production, there might be shit going on set with this is how things go behind schedule and over budget. But certainly with mid-budget or low-budget movies, by the time you're shooting the movie, it's scheduled, you've booked the
Yeah.
space, you've got actors on call, you've got technicians on call, you're renting. Like Beaumont's house, for example, was a real house. Most of the thing, as you say, Joe, was shot on sound stages.
Mhm.
Beaumont's house was a real house somewhere. So you tend not to get messed with once the cameras are rolling. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's
Hmm.
much rarer, I think, than civilians think. But you can absolutely get screwed over in the development process. People get writers get casually replaced by other writers. Um, up to they think we're so fungible, um, up to a ridiculous level. I use One of the things you can do if you're a Writers Guild member, a way to repay the guild for ensuring us, health coverage and pensions and certain minimum rates that they can't pay you less than. Um, and one of the ways you can repay the guild is by serving on committees for the guild. And I was on Screen Credits Committee for several years.
Mhm.
Um, and it was just disheartening to see like a disease that just metastasized. It used to be that you'd have to supervise what we call an arbitration to determine, because only the guild can determine the finalized writing credits.
Right.
Um, and it used to be that there might
And
be,
and handle disciplinary actions too.
well, yeah, yeah, sure. Well, there wouldn't be any disciplinary actions on the credit
Right, right,
itself. It's all the
right.
studios have signed what we call the MBA, the
Understood.
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, the guild will discipline, if you scab or, if you do non-union work or, otherwise disgrace the noble profession,
Hmm.
the guild will handle discipline and maybe expel a member. That's not the credit committee's job. We're just
Right,
saying
right. Just the
who
credit
wrote
committee.
what, who
Yes. Yeah.
deserves the credit for this movie.
What percentage of this was written by this person? Does that
Yeah,
entitle them to have their
exactly
name in the
that, Joe,
movie? Right.
exactly
Yeah.
that. And it used to be bad enough when you sort of do a little, sometimes you do you become an arbiter yourself and read it and venture an opinion, and then if you're smart enough you get promoted to the committee and you don't have to read the fucking things, you just have to meet with the writers and see if we can
Yeah.
come to an amicable agreement, all this shit. um but what I was trying to get to say was that it was bad enough when there were three or four writers on a project, but we got to one. And I swear to God, there were 16 writers who'd worked on this thing.
Whoa.
And that
Oh,
wasn't even the record. I asked, yeah, as well as the committees on have to be professionally established screenwriters themselves with
right,
a certain number of credits or years in the game.
right.
But there's also obviously a staff that works for the guild. And I remember asking the senior staff person on this. I said, "My God, 16, right? This is terrible. Is this a record?" And she said, "Oh no, that would be I think it was the Flintstones." She said that would be the live action Flintstones
Oh
that they made
wow.
in the
How
80s.
many writers were in that?
22.
Oh God.
Wow. That
22.
explains a lot. That does
Yeah,
explain a
right,
lot. Wow.
right.
With
So
John
yeah,
Goodman as
so all
Fred,
the
right?
so
Wow.
in terms of emotional devastation, all those stories you hear from writers bemoaning their fate, they're all true, but it's usually the development process before the cameras
Yeah.
roll. Once the
Right.
cameras are rolling, they're pretty much going to shoot exactly the correct phrase you used, the shooting script, which means the final draft of the thing,
Yeah.
which might be, I think Hellbound was my fifth draft. Hellraiser 3, well, not counting all the other versions of Hellraiser 3.
Of course.
Right.
Hellraiser 3, that might have been fifth. I think five is usually a good indicator that there's been some healthy development and work,
Sure.
but not insanity.
Right.
And
Not when you go past the gold pages like in
yeah,
Bloodline.
right.
Yeah.
Golden.
Goldenrod.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
right. Bloodline. I think I've made this joke before when we were
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
We literally got to Goldenrod twice, which
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
very bad sign.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think I'm going to guess most of. Yeah, I think Hellraiser 2, Hellraiser 3, and Wishmaster. I think five drafts. And again, because I because I'm nice enough to them or whatever, they kept me all five drafts by me. There was nobody else involved.
Right.
Um, why did that come up?
Oh, we were talking
I've
about
lost track. Sorry.
directors
Oh, because you
and
were showing the book. Yes, you said this looks like the shooting script.
right
Yeah,
Yeah.
that it was pretty much word for word
yeah,
everything here, all
right.
the scenes. Just the
Yeah.
two or three or four scenes that I noticed were moved around a little bit, one
Sure,
before the other,
sure.
but everything else was just spot on, which is amazing. Um,
I've been very lucky,
you
except
have.
in Bloodline.
Yeah.
What was Robert Kurtzman like?
It was great. It was great.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, he well, because yeah, Bob's a bit younger than me. I mean,
Uh-huh.
either five, it might be 10 years younger than me even, but both very much monster kids. We grew up loving this shit. Um, Famous monsters of film. We instantly clicked, just like I had done with Tony Randall and Tony Hickox as well.
Right, right. I
And
was
and by the
curious.
way, I had a lovely relationship with Kevin Yeager as well on
Of
Bloodline.
course. Yeah.
Obviously, it all went to hell in the wrong
Yeah.
way, but that was not Kevin's fault.
Right,
It's
of course.
interesting that
Despite
in
what Gary Tunnicliffe apparently occasionally says
oh
on stuff
Sure.
podcasts.
Oh
it,
yeah, he says a
it,
lot.
it's
Yeah,
interesting that in Hellraiser 4 that the Weinsteins got so involved and in rewrites and stuff, and yet then you look at like the Hellraiser movies that they made just to keep the rights going. They didn't seem to care at all. Like what,
right.
like Hellraiser Revelations made for like $100,000, I
I
think.
believe so. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know for a fact. Yeah.
yeah.
One cool cameo that's in this movie too is that bum outside of the pharmacy,
Oh
George
yeah,
Flower,
Buck Flowers,
Buck
the
Flower, right? George
the
Flower.
Oh
legend.
yeah,
Oh
Yeah.
my God, that guy! He's in so many movies, and he always
yeah,
plays like this kind of unhinged
Yeah,
hobo.
right. He plays
That's
Buck Flowers, right?
it
yeah.
was great. I was listening to the commentary, and I think it might have been the director that said that he was auditioning people, and then Buck Flower came over and he just took his teeth off and did the whole thing without his teeth, and it was like, that's the guy.
That's the guy. Yeah.
That's him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and also he came prepared with his own because yeah, it's kind of used to say that it looks like the shooting script it was literally the version we published.
Yeah.
Um and I'm trying to think. I can't remember the. There were two or three others. The scene where he has the run-in with the pharmacist.
Right.
Um,
I think I know
Buck.
what you're going to say. There's some things that he says when he's walking away that were
Yeah.
not on the script. And I was like, did this guy improvise this? One of the
Well,
things he
it's
says is
interesting. He
amazing.
didn't. Here's what happened. Um, that's what Monk says, right? When he's about to solve the case. Here's what happened. Um, Buck. It was great. He was very polite. He came on to me and said, "We're going to do this thing. Uh, I love the insults you've given me to say. I got a few on my own. Is that
Yeah.
okay with you?"
Yeah.
And I was
Uh,
this close to saying, "You're Buck fucking Flowers, mate. Say whatever you want, you know."
yeah.
So I think I've said in the past when asked this, I think I've casually used the phrase improv, and uh, it's that does a disservice to Buck's preparation. It was not an improv. He'd written down two or three in
Oh,
my memory now, but it's I I might even have seen a piece of paper with
Right.
it written on, but I don't think I did. But he'd written around. It wasn't an improv, but it was his line. When he calls Reggie a dyssymplectic afterbirth of a Chinese gangbanger,
God.
I
This
wish,
complected
I
afterbirth
wish
of the
I could take
Chinese.
credit for
Yeah.
that line, but that is
Uh,
all Buck.
and then after that, he yells like "educated idiot," and that's Reggie
Oh,
Bannister, the
he might have
pharmacist.
thrown
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one in as an improv.
sure,
Yeah, I'm not sure
sure.
that was in there.
That's what I thought was like, oh my god, that's a good insult. And I was looking at the script, I was like, that's not in here. I wonder if
Right,
that was
right.
improvised.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Did I cheat? Did I put dyssymplectic afterbirth in?
No, after
I
no,
did.
it's not on the
No, good,
script.
good.
No, so you're
Because
right
I
on that
remember
story.
being tempted. I
Yeah.
remember thinking,
Oh,
"Oh
yeah.
man!" But no, that was George Buckflower's line,
That's
and
great.
yeah, it was great.
I just love this movie so much. The
Yeah.
the whole like Wishmaster thing, the way he speaks, the way he moves. I think
Yeah.
Andrew Divoff
Oh
did
yeah,
such a
no,
good job.
he really stepped up. It was great. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously he'd worked a lot before the movie, but and I certainly don't want to say this was his first starring role per se, but it was it was the first time he was front and center as what we hoped would become a big, franchise monster. And and he absolutely rose to the challenge. Um, in the same way that, I've always said how lucky I am that the lines that people are kind enough to remember from Hellbound or Hellraiser 3 or even Bloodline, um, they're my lines, but half the reason they're remembered is because of Doug's fantastic delivery
Hmm.
of them.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And similarly, Andrew, this is the commonality he has with Doug. Both of them, um, it's tough to act through latex.
Yeah.
Um, the actor's tools are not just their voice, their expressions, their look, their eyebrows that they raise or don't raise. And,
Sure.
once you're buried under that latex, a lot of your a lot of the arrows in your quiver have been taken away, so to speak. So you've really got your eyes and your voice to sell this shit to the audience. And no matter how good, bad, or indifferent some line you write is, if the actor delivering it cannot sell it through the latex, then, it doesn't matter. Your effort doesn't matter. And Andrew, just like Doug, and like Robert himself when he was Freddy, obviously, um, those guys. It's a specific it's a s- it's a specific sub skill of all three of the people I've just named are great actors, but this is a specific sub skill in which some great actors could be plastered in makeup and it wouldn't work. But we really lucked out with Andrew. He really stepped up. He's great in human form, and he's equally great in demonic form
I agree.
because he never lets you think I'm an actor stuck under 25 pounds of fucking plastic and I'm sweating like a pig inside this
Right.
thing. He is completely in character, completely committed.
He has to stay cool and suave and
Yeah,
serpentine.
exactly. And
Yeah.
he keeps that sort of, I mean, obviously he's a swine, but he is a charming, inventive, and witty swine as Demarest, and he maintains that even when the makeup is on. So yeah, full marks to him.
Oh,
And
yes, absolutely. But your monsters linger in the imagination, not just because of the way they look, but also what they mean. And,
oh, thanks.
the poetry that sometimes these monsters speak out, even though it might be intimidating in the case of the Wishmaster, but or enticing, right? I mean, Pinhead and Wishmaster share that kind of
Oh, sure.
enticing, you know,
I mean, yeah.
um, Pinhead wants people to open the box, and the Wishmaster wants people to make their wishes.
Right.
So that's how they kind of do that Faustian
Yeah.
bargain thing.
They
But
are silver-tongued devils, almost literally. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So right now, I think, what part are we on, Ryan? What are you seeing? Because I think I moved around my movie a little bit.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
he's starting to cut the face off of the corpse of Andrew
Oh,
Divock,
right,
and the
right.
and the
What a great point
the
to
young
ask where we are.
the young technician with the curly hair is coming in to ask him what he's doing.
Oh, that's right. And then he kind of wishes that he didn't see that, and then he kind of loses his
Yeah,
eyes.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it's
Oh, by the way,
Hmm.
here's a bit of trivia.
Yeah.
And again, I've probably said this in previous interviews, but not specifically for a commentary. The curly-headed student, as you say, um, his last name is Klugman. And the guy you mentioned earlier, Joe, who
Mhm.
works with Alex's boss, um, his last name is Lemon, and it's Chris Lemon, and
Oh,
he is the son
Oh,
of Jack
Jack
Lemon.
Lemon. Oh,
And Mr. Klugman here is the not the son, but I believe the nephew of Jack Klugman.
oh, wow.
So we have two scions of the odd couple in
Right,
Wishmaster, but
right.
that's
different odd
interesting.
couples. One
Yeah.
from the movie, the Lemon line, and one from the TV show, the Klugman line. So
Wow.
Yeah,
yeah.
I remember Jack Klugman. Wasn't he like in Twilight Zone or 12 Angry Men?
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's the
yes,
thing, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
12
Oh no, he
Angry
had
Men.
a
Yeah.
long career. But yeah, but yes, he he Jack Lemmon and he did not play the same role in the movie and
No.
TV. Jack Klugman played the Walter Matthau role in the
Right.
TV show, and Jack
And then
Right.
for the movie, they got
and
Walter
Jack
Matthau.
Lemmon was played by Tony Randall in the TV show. Yeah, is it that way around? Lemmon and
I'm
Matthau in
I
the
feel like I'm too
movie.
young to answer that question
I
right
know,
now, but
right?
maybe
You
not.
are. I think it's pretty sure it's Tony Randall, but not our Tony Randall. It's
Right.
Tony Randall and
Yeah.
Jack Klugman
Yeah.
in the TV show.
Tammy Amberson. Does the Amberson also come from like a reference to something?
Not that.
Not
No,
that.
I thought of anything. I might have been
Okay.
thinking of Amber because she's a gemologist. I
Oh,
think it was that.
okay.
Um,
Yeah. Look at that.
yeah,
I had 20 years to figure that out, and I had to figure that out when you told me.
Yeah.
I'm glad you asked because I had certainly forgotten, and I'm not even sure how conscious it was. Um, yeah, I
This
think.
mythology professor, the actress reminds me of Shirley MacLaine a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, she is great.
Yeah.
Jenny
I,
O'Hara.
I was
And
sad to see
again,
her get killed.
Yeah.
we don't see her get killed,
Well,
right?
we don't. Yeah, it happens off screen, but I was
Yes,
sad
right,
sad to
right.
see that happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not looking at we're looking at her first scene right now, right? Not
Yes.
her
Yeah. They're
second.
walking
Yeah.
around this play,
Okay,
outdoor
yeah,
play,
yeah.
and yeah.
What a great location to shoot a scene.
Yeah.
Was this at the university? Oh,
It
I mean,
was a college, and I can't possibly remember which one.
Mm.
that's okay.
Yeah, Jenny O'Hara, who is not unlike the rest of our 80s horror Rolodex people. She's not a horror actor per se, but I mean, I'll say it now because we might forget to talk about it when the later scene comes up.
Mm.
But again, proving how much writers and directors have to rely, especially in
Mhm.
genre work, I think you have to rely on the commitment and seriousness with which actors play this nonsense. And,
Yeah.
I'm sure Jenny was more used to playing Eugene O'Neill dramas or Woody Allen comedies or whatever. But she absolutely made the subsequent scene, the scene we'll see later when something has happened.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan's already spoiled that one. That perhaps this isn't who we think it might be,
Right.
Oh
and
yeah.
um, and again, in the hands of a
Subtle transformation and during
yeah,
the
she's
dialogue,
so
it's
great. She
it's
absolutely fucking nailed
amazing.
it, and it was like
Yeah.
one day's work. She came in, and
Yeah.
yeah, there might have been a couple of retakes here and there and stuff, but she just hit it straight in the pocket, man. She was great.
Yeah.
And
I
now
followed her out to her car specifically to thank her for nailing that because it's one of those things I'm sure you guys are familiar with this. Hitchcock had this distinction between suspense
Hmm.
and I forget what he made as terror or horror or fear. But suspense is when the audience knows the bomb is under the table, but the characters
yeah.
don't.
Yes, right, right. And that's also called dramatic irony, I think. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, is it? I mean,
Are we talking
I'm going to
about
believe you.
we're talking about
Um,
Chekhov's gun, right? That
well,
idea.
that's a slightly different thing, which is
Okay.
if you show something in Act
It'll be
One,
used. Okay.
yes, it is
Oh,
going to be
right.
used in
But
Act
this is where
Three.
the audience knows what's going on, but the characters in the
Yeah,
scene
right.
don't.
That's
Yeah.
specifically that. And I think
Yeah.
Hitchcock's image was the bomb under the table.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so the scene that happens later between Jenny and Tammy is a bomb under the table scene,
Yeah.
or rather becomes a bomb under the table. And it's a race against, well, at what point does the audience realize something has happened before Alec, the character Alex,
Yeah.
realizes? And in clumsier hands, that would either been given away too early
Hmm.
or not revealed at all emotionally and just sort of, oh yeah, I'm the Djinn.
Yeah.
But what Jenny does is she just lets the sparkle come into her eyes because, hopefully the viewers aren't too ahead of us. So we assume this is Wendy
Yeah.
Derleth and we're having a conversation. And then by line four, it's sounding a little off. By line six, we're getting an uncomfortable feeling.
Well, and
By
Alex
line
is
eight,
picking up on it
she's
too, because
grinning and we
she's
think, oh,
starting.
fuck. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a glass of water suddenly would have turned into a wish.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
like, well, what a would you like a glass of water? Would you wish for
Yeah.
I
Right.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
that's
Yes,
like I think it was
exactly. And hopefully,
yeah.
hopefully, what happens is the audience is like one beat ahead of Tammy, not
Yeah.
not three, and not one
Yeah.
behind.
It
And she's
took
a
me a
heck of
minute.
a
Yeah.
And Jenny
detective,
was
right?
great. She just absolutely got it. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's a heck of a detective, Tammy or Alex in this movie, right? She
Yeah.
does her job. She goes and talks to people, and same with the Wishmaster. It's almost like a procedural. He has to find out where
Yeah.
she is. So
Yeah. She's
there's
diligent.
yeah, he has to
Yeah.
go and find out who she talked to and find her card on something on the
Yeah.
police station. But there's a lot of like research and investigation going on between these two. They're trying to find as much as they can about each other for the final confrontation at the
Sure.
end
Right.
in
And
the third act.
now we're in the police station, right? And what the wish that's going to happen here in a minute. It seemed like it was a callback to the Hellbound Heart because
Hmm.
the character grabs a guy's jaw and wrenches it off, like, and that's something
Does he? I'd forgotten that.
that happens in
Okay.
the Hellbound Heart, but it doesn't happen in Hellraiser movie because it's pretty horrific.
Hmm.
Wait, where does that happen in Hellbound? Now I'm
In the
confused.
Hellbound Heart, the novel. it happens.
Oh, right. Okay, the novel. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay, not
Frank
the movie.
rips the jaw off of one of those guys that Julia
Oh, he
brought to him.
does?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, I
Well,
didn't
I
remember.
had certainly read the Hellbound Heart, I
Right.
Yeah.
imagine. Um, it was not a conscious echo. In fact, I'm not even sure I put that in the script. That might have just
No,
because you know
I think
what
that's
what
just
happens.
special effects guys step in for that stuff, right?
Well, what
Yeah.
happens here and there in Wishmaster, and in fact in any physical effects heavy movie, is you'll often find that the guys have a gag already that they didn't use in a previous movie,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
but have been, I don't know that this is the case here. Like I say, I
I
should have
understand.
brushed up my memory. But it could well be, this sounds exactly the kind of thing where Bob or somebody else at KMB would
It,
say, "Oh
it's
man,
happening
wait,
right now.
we've got that detachable fucking jaw. We
Uh,
couldn't use it in Maniac Cop 2. Let's
Right.
so it could I don't know that that's the case here. I can't remember. But it could well be because without doubt there are several visual gags in the movie that were just hanging around the KMB
mhm.
workshop waiting to be used.
Oh, there are some really good gags here. There are some excellent kills in this movie. Like in the beginning, there's like that sequence that is very Ray Harryhausen, which is the one in ancient Persia where the guy is like, "Help me, sorcerer," and then his skeleton comes out of his
Oh
body,
yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
and he even looks like the weird skeletons from the Ray Harryhausen movie because their eyes are kind of like they got the eyebrows like down like this,
Sure.
so their eyes
Yeah.
look a little more evil. And he just comes out, and it's
Yeah.
so good. That stop motion animation for that skeleton and other stuff like that is
Yeah.
just so
Oh
amazing.
yeah, and I think I mentioned in passing earlier that there were two effect shops, and obviously the majority of the effects in the movie are KMB,
Yeah.
who were the premier physical effects place. But my script was so effects heavy that I don't know if it was the producers or probably Bob himself, because he would know, he would be able to gauge this kind of thing. Somebody said, we're going to need a second effect shop. So my old mate, who we've already mentioned, Gary Tunnicliffe, was also on Wishmaster. And the skeleton, not to take anything away from KNB, most of the effects are theirs, but the skeleton one is memorable. And that happened to have been a Tunnicliffe shop.
Oh,
If
there you go.
yeah.
That one was fantastic, and as well as another thing that shows a little bit of a reference to Voyage of Sinbad. There's like one of the statues when in
Oh
the third
yes.
act,
Oh,
Right.
sure,
one of
yeah.
the statues with the helmet and the sword is almost like the I forgot the name of that.
Talos?
Jason
Talos,
and the
yes.
Jason
Yeah,
and the Argonauts, I
Jason and the
think.
yeah,
Argonauts. Yeah, that
Yeah.
statue kind of
yeah.
reminds me of Talos, the animated statue in
Sure.
the movie.
Yeah.
That's just perfect.
Yeah.
But what a clever battle of the wits on that third act, especially once Alex finds out that Jenny O'Hara's character Wendy is the Wishmaster.
Now we're on the guard who's like
Oh,
wishes him to go
Kane?
I wish you'd go through me or something like that.
Kane
Like
Hodder.
yeah. Oh
It is
yes.
Kane Hodder.
Yeah,
Oh
what
yeah,
a horrible, wish to waste.
but a fantastic effect there too. It's one of the
Yeah.
main iconic kills of this whole thing. It's
Yeah.
the way he gets stuck in the glass and
Yeah.
flattened
Yeah.
completely. It's just beautiful. Yeah, but
Well,
what?
I neither I nor Andy would ever make this claim, but other people um, like to say, well, this proves that the Djinn is actually the most powerful movie monster because in this movie he kills Jason, Freddy, and Candyman. And
Yeah,
and
that's a
of
good
course,
point.
let me stress, he does not. Robert, Kane, and Tony are not playing those characters.
Right.
So the Djinn does not kill those characters.
But
He wouldn't
it's
necessarily
a funny
win
idea.
in the ultimate fighting match between
But
them. But it is true that
he's physically impervious to being hurt, and you have to outsmart him like Mitzelplick, right, from Superman, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So you pronounced it as a word. As a kid, I always had to spell it. He was Mr. MXYZPTLK.
Oh, yeah.
To
Well,
me, as a
I
kid.
got the pronunciation from Super Friends, the cartoon.
Right,
Yeah.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
It was definitely meant to be pronounced. I could just never. It was easier to remember the letters than the words.
Oh, yeah.
But can I just say, just as a little asterisk on what you said, the Djinn is not impervious to physical pain completely. Otherwise, he would be lying to Alex
Mhm.
when, in a later
He
sequence,
says that hurt.
exactly,
Yeah. That hurt
he
like
says, if it's
hell.
any
Yeah.
consolation, that hurt
Because you
like
can't wish him to destroy himself. That's not how that works. Like just
right,
like you can't wish for more wishes.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, they don't say that though. Nobody ever did tried it to
I,
wish
I,
for more wishes. And he gave Alex a free wish, so she got four.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
He
Nobody
got
says it directly, but he does imply. I hope the implication is clear that like he's heard all those things before. He does say
Yeah.
at one point, "Oh, how original!" As if, yeah, of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
everybody's going to try and make me kill myself.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to try and wish for more wishes. Let's enough with that bullshit. Let's.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's funny that the stone has to be charged, and so at that point where the
Oh, it's all
Wishmaster,
nonsense, Joe. I mean, yeah, this
sure,
is the problem. I mean, this
no,
is why we didn't actually talk about this at the beginning. This is why I didn't want to do it. Um, my my friend Eric Salzgeber, who'd worked at New World, so I
uh-huh,
knew him from when we were doing the Hellraiser pictures. He had
yeah,
moved on to work for Pierre David. Why am I stressing it that way? Pierre David's company. Pierre David was a French Canadian, is still
yeah,
alive, is a French Canadian producer who'd made some of Cronenberg's early films.
mhm, mhm.
And Eric was working for him. And I guess it must have been before Blood. I can't remember the sequence. Anyway, um, he called me out of the blue and said, "Do you want to write an Evil Genie movie for Pierre?" And I said, "No, Evil Genie movie. What a ridiculous idea. This is the worst idea I can imagine. I'm not going to waste my time coming up with a pitch." At which point Eric said, "There's no pitching. Hellraiser 3 is a hit. Pierre will pay you to write an Evil Genie movie. Do you want the fucking job or not?"
Right.
Uh, at which point I said, "Sounds great. Really good idea." But I was hesitant because of exactly that. It's like, oh man, the three wishes do that. It's like
I get it, but
how you just have to navigate the hokiness. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I decided. It
Well,
was
and all
like,
the
okay,
original people only get one wish, and that one wish usually like messes them up or kills them in some way.
right, right.
Yeah.
well, but I think under the, I wouldn't call it contrivance, but under the
Oh, it's a
necessity of the
contrivance, but yeah,
under the necessity of the plot to have some cool kills for a movie
sure.
that was coming out in the
Yeah.
90s, I think that was an interesting
Well,
point.
and
Like,
and if it
yes,
was
you
just three wishes from Alex, then the movie would be over in 15 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You
but that idea that evil needs souls or evil needs to
Hmm.
gather energy to enter our dimension is it's a
Yeah.
perfectly acceptable explanation for it. And
perfectly
Right.
acceptable.
yeah, it's
And
like
also,
they're walking between the worlds and they want a place to live, so why
Right.
not our
right, that's what I
universe?
was going to
Yeah.
say. That it's everything is perspective, and from
Yeah.
our point of view, this Djinn, not the Djinn plural,
Hmm.
this Djinn is evil, but they're really just displaced persons who want yeah, I can't remember whatever mock poetic crap I came up with for that
Uh-huh.
opening thing that Angus Scrimm read so beautifully. But yes, they're condemned to walk the space between the
Yeah.
worlds.
And
And
it
so
kind of
they're
makes you wonder
envious
if
of the
they're
angels,
are they
envious of humankind. So it's just it's territorial imperative
yeah.
rather than evil per se.
Well, and
There's
it
a
and
It's
it's
evil,
also kind of like a vampire that has to be invited inside, right? Because it requires
Yes,
our
right.
participation.
There are rules.
We're
Yeah.
the ones that are doing these wishes. We should just turn around and walk away. Don't
Don't be
participate.
tempted.
Yeah,
But
but
we
also
are tempted.
he
We are
also
creatures who are prone to temptation.
he also
That's how these
circumvents
buggers
that a
get
little
us.
bit, right? Because
Yeah.
he plants wishes in people's mind, in people's heads. He says, "Hey, would you like to
Oh
not
yeah.
see this
Oh no.
anymore?" And
Yeah.
they go,
What a cheat.
"Okay, I guess, yeah," and then they're dead.
Sure. Sounds all right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No. He's yes. I don't think he plays entirely by his own rules. That's
yeah,
true. I think there's
I like that his.
sometimes.
Oh, go ahead.
Go. What'd you say,
Just
Joe?
gonna. I was just gonna say that he also kind of looks almost like insectoid in his
yeah,
transformed look. He's got this kind of a carapace on, like almost like an armor.
Sure.
yeah.
So who was it? Greg Nicotero that came up with the makeup for the Djinn?
I'm pretty sure it was Bob. I think
Bob.
I think
Okay.
the original design is. I mean, all three of them. You've mentioned Greg, obviously, and Howard Berger was the th so it's Kurtzman, Nicotero,
And
Berger,
Burger. Yeah.
Berger, with KNB,
Yeah.
and all three of them are brilliant.
Yeah.
All three of them are
Oh,
fine visual artists, fine conceptualists. I I think the design is Bob's. And, and I really should know, shouldn't I? But Greg was very much on set, supervising a lot of the gags. So yeah, I don't know. We'd have to
Yeah.
ask some. We'd have to ask somebody more
I'll
uh,
have to. I'll have to
more
find.
history
Yeah,
minded.
I can look that up.
I think it's Bob's because
I,
Bob's still. In fact, I think now, but finally Bob's cashing in. If people are kind enough to be interested, I think Bob is now making both prints and busts of the Djinn head
oh, that's cool.
um, available for purchase at kurtzman.com, or I don't know
Okay.
what the address is.
We'll add that
And
into
I'm
our
not
show
here
notes.
to
We'll
sell
look it
his
up.
crap to people, but and of course they're great because he's done the design himself, and he'll
Oh,
either
I
bronze
see
it
that.
up for you or do a full paint job, but that will
Wow.
cost you a lot of money.
I am.
But
I'm looking.
it will be a hand painted Bob Kurtzman
Yeah.
gin head.
I'm
So
actually looking at a picture from this year of Robert Kurtzman standing next to one of those busts, and it
uh-huh,
does look pretty impressive. I mean, the paint job, of course, makes it come to life. So
sure.
that is amazing. I'll add this to the show notes for the episode.
Does it
Thanks for putting this on my map, Pete.
sure. Does it say how much they are? I don't think I
No.
clicked through.
Uh-uh.
Okay,
Nope.
let's not sully with
Yeah.
such mercantile considerations. But yeah, if you want the hand painted one, I'm guessing you're not going to get that for 9.99 is my guess.
No, the prints are $150 each, and you have
But he
from the
signs
baby.
them, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. From the baby Jin concept art, which we were talking about earlier,
Oh, interesting. I
the
didn't
Vern
know he got
Troyer
that.
form. He's got like a make your wish where you got a Wishmaster doing the Bela Lugosi hand thing.
Yeah,
A lot of interesting stuff, and he does have
that's
some
cool.
scale Jin busts, either life size painted, $3,500, and
A
then the half
bargain.
scale,
Come
a
on, where have
bargain.
you been?
And then you have the half scale for 350. It's just 10 times
Okay.
less.
Oh,
So
350. No,
yeah,
that actually
three
is a bargain. That's not
350 is a bargain. That's
Yeah.
right.
yeah.
Do you think one thing I'd been as I was watching this last night, one thing I was thinking about is there's not as much like there was an opportunity for sort of fish out of water sort of comedy with 1,000-year-old Jin trying to get used to our world. But it seemed like
Sure.
he kind of insinuated himself in pretty easily. He's making telephone calls and stuff like that.
Sure.
Is he just like reading
They're
people's
always
minds
watching,
and
Ryan. They're
and
always watching. They're there
yeah.
in the space, like the Phantom Zone in DC Comics.
Oh,
They
okay.
see it, they see what we're doing. He's
Uh,
kept up with history.
yeah.
He knows how to shop. He knows he looks good in that suit.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's another one of those good kills in this movie with the cashier lady that
Yeah.
has a
Yeah, what a
conversation.
swine. He just totally talks her into that.
I
Yeah, he
know.
did. He sure
Say it.
did.
Say it. Say you
Yeah,
wish to be
and
beautiful forever.
and she never opposed him. She was like, sort of in love with him and following him around all
Oh,
excited
Andy
and
looks pretty good in that suit.
yeah.
Come on.
Sure
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
But yeah, but what a great movie. And then we have some images here in the Wishmaster book of the Djinn itself. I'm not sure if I'm show these around yet. If I haven't, let me just show this one. This is what the Wishmaster was supposed to look like in the book,
Oh
original
yeah,
story. Oh, moving it out of the frame. There we go.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, well, the illustrations in that book are by I know you and I, the three of us talked about this, but this was before we were recording, right? If
Well,
I'm repeating
we did
myself, I
record it. Yeah,
apologize.
we recorded it,
Cut it
so
out.
we'll
But
have it in
for
here.
the people who are watching this, the illustrations in that book are by the great Randy Broker, who is a great and renowned horror illustrator. Sounds so demeaning to say illustrator rather than artist, but a great horror artist. The cover is Les Edwards,
Of
who is
Yeah,
course,
another great.
one of the
Um,
greats of book covers, Les
yeah.
Edwards, who's
Oh
done so
yeah.
yeah,
many amazing paintings over the
Oh
years.
yes.
yeah. Oh no, it's always in the same way that I get such a kick out of working with all the horror royalty we got in the cast for Wishmaster. It's like it's like I've got a book with a Les Edwards cover and Randy Broker interior
That is cool.
illustrations. Yeah, how'd I deserve that? It's lovely. And just one tiny clarification though, Joe.
Yeah.
The illustrations in the book are fantastic, but they don't predate the movie. 'Cause you said, I know you're speaking just casually, but you said this is how the Jinn was supposed to look.
Oh, gotcha.
But,
Okay.
but,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
obviously the illustrations were for the book, which was published after the movie. So that's
Very good.
Randy's interpretation of the Jinn.
Of the Djinn, yes,
Yeah.
his own like artistic view of it based on the script. Fantastic. Very classic looking monstery with lots of hair and lots of horns and stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah,
Uh,
Randy. I'm he'll probably object if I use the word throwback because it makes him sound old, even though he's really old, even older than me.
yeah.
Um, but Randy is a throwback to um, what he likes with the great pen and ink illustrations of, well, he likes the whole history and range of illustrative art, but he's
mhm.
particularly fond of the 20s and 30s pen and ink illustrations of people like, I'm going to go blank, like Virgil Finlay or Ed Cartier,
Oh yeah,
the illustrators of the pulp magazines, for
yeah.
example.
Virgil Finlay is so amazing. It's
Oh,
always
yeah,
so
right.
metaphysical. It's usually like someone facing some sort of cosmic horror or whatever. Or
Yeah, right,
it's
right.
so good.
Yeah, and I think Randy's very much in that like people again. There were generations of people like Steve Fabian, who I think sadly again is somebody we just lost in the last couple of years.
Oh
But there was the golden age of the pulp illustrators like Finlay and Cartier and people, and then you had your Steve Fabians and other people and our old pal Randy.
yeah, and
Who is, by the way, and you guys will like this because it's trivia that connects to the podcast. Randy is the brother-in-law of Steve Jones.
Oh,
oh, there you
wow.
go.
Randy's married to Sarah,
Oh,
who is Steve's little sister.
Wow.
wow, small
Huh.
world. Huh?
Yeah.
I should say small island.
Well, yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm just joking.
So
That's that's amazing.
so we're in the scene now where he's where they're in the apartment of the professor, right?
Ah,
And he's
oh well, this is
revealed
not
himself to her,
over.
and now she wished for him to destroy himself, and now they're in his little world in the gem.
I was
Yes.
I was trying to come up with these little old paperbacks that show the kind of illustrations that you're
Oh
talking
yes,
about.
exactly. That's the tradition Randy
Yeah,
is
like
working in.
Weird
Yes,
Tales
very good.
magazines and
Yeah.
stuff like that that would have
Yes.
stuff just like that, which
Yeah.
pen and
Um,
ink.
guys, I'm so sorry. I'm getting a low battery indicator on my Mac.
Oh,
Okay.
And I
okay.
know we're watching the movie in real time, but it's telling me that my Mac is going to sleep unless I plug it into a power outlet.
We can
and my
pause.
power cord is in the other room.
Sure.
Okay.
You want to
So I
pause?
don't know
Well,
what
we
should I
can't
do
pause,
here.
but you can go ahead and go get the cord.
Can we
Okay.
pause and
Yeah.
then you'll
Yeah.
edit?
We
Yeah.
can't pause, but you
You
can go ahead
can't
and go.
pause.
Yeah, you can go ahead and go get the cord.
Are you sure? Because
Yeah.
then I'll have to fuck around. Oh my God, let me read. What is the
No,
actual?
you'll be good. No worries.
Yeah.
Oh yes, it's 9%.
Yeah, there's about 20 minutes left of the movie.
Ooh. What do we want to do?
We're on the Chatterbeast
Do we
scene right
want to
now.
do we want to tempt fate or
Well, if you want, I guess, Ryan, we could pause the movie and then start when he's back.
No, we can't. I said that 3 times. Stop asking that.
he
Okay.
did
Okay.
say that 3 times? I don't
Yeah,
know
now
why
that's
it's
in the
true.
now that's
He
in our
did say it.
Let's
yeah.
let's go get that. Let's go get that
Okay, well,
charger.
talk amongst yourselves.
Gisette's
How
is
do I kill the video on me? Oh, hang on. I'm
you
gonna
you
chop
can't keep
because
volunteering me for stuff that
No, no, absolutely, I
he
get it.
can't do that. Um, okay.
all right.
Talk them through it and give
Sure.
me 3 minutes to find the bloody thing and then find
Okay.
the power cord. Hold on.
Okay, so Ryan, are we now at the part where
She's
the
looking at the eyeball in the and he's talking to her in the gem
right? Yep.
and threatening
It's
her sister Shannon.
it's interesting because this movie starts with a party and it's going to
Yeah.
end with a party, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a great strategy that Jinn works here because he brings chaos to the world, and then the final wish is to take the chaos away.
Yeah.
That's going to be what gives them. Oh, look, a full body burn shot right here. I don't know if you're watching that right now.
Full body burn shot.
Yeah, there's a guy in the party that just walked into a fireplace.
We're not at the party yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's looking for her sister at the apartment.
Ah, there it is. Yeah, looking for Shannon.
Yeah. And
Which,
she's now reading the note that she went to the party.
Oh, I see. Beaumont's party. There it is. Okay. So that's why she's going to go there.
Yeah, I only edit the parts at the beginning before we say play, and then after the credits are over.
And we're going to be seeing Tony Todd pretty soon in this movie.
Yeah.
I like the part that the Djinn says that now that she's made 2 wishes, they're more closer than ever. They're connected. Now
Yeah.
he's not going to get out of her life until she makes her 3rd wish. And hey, we're back.
Hey, sorry about that.
Yeah.
I could have plugged it in last night, but that would have required forethought and
That's so great.
intelligence.
He just punched the window out of her car and when she's on her way to the party.
Seems stroppy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's almost like violence.
We're almost
that
on
he's not supposed to do.
We're almost reaching that moment where Johnny Valentine shows up.
Okay. Oh yeah. We should have saved the story, I guess, till the scene plays, but I don't know. Everybody these days, I think everybody knows commentary is sort of free form, right?
Right. Yeah.
We're past the age where it was like, in this scene, we used a 4.8 lens for the.
It's interesting that she's trying to talk her way into the party when she was invited. She talked her way. She tricked Tony Todd into going after the Wishmaster so that she could sneak into the doors.
But she was invited.
She probably didn't think to bring her invitation with her. She was in a hurry.
Right. She's had a lot going on, Ryan. It's difficult.
Yeah.
Difficult to keep track.
Yeah.
In the last movie that came out a few weeks ago, Tony Todd's last movie was Final Destination.
Oh, right.
At the end of the movie, the director and the producers, I think, turned to Todd and said, hey, he had done his lines, and they're like, do you want to shoot one more scene, like with you talking through the camera, like as if you're talking to the fans? And they added that line to the end of the Final Destination movie. And so the character that he plays in that movie, of course, it's called Bloodworth, I think that's his name.
Bloodlines, I think, oddly, given the Hellraiser connection.
But so what he says is, what would you like to say to them this moment? Where is that? Give me just a second. I said, here it is. So Todd's unscripted speech is short but sweet. So he turns to the camera and says, probably one of the characters ask him, what is he going to do? And he says, I intend to enjoy the time I have left, and I suggest you do the same. Life is precious. Enjoy every single second. You never know when. Good luck. And that's the last line that he speaks in the movie to the characters in Final Destination. And that was totally an ad lib. They just added that to the movie. At least that's how the mythology goes, I guess.
Wow. And probably they didn't know that he was sick.
They knew. No, they knew. That's why they had him record that last line to the fans. They did know that he had stomach cancer, unfortunately. But but here is Tony Todd. He was in his prime, right? I mean, as Johnny Valentine.
Yeah, he looks great. Yeah.
It looks amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's very sad. I did not know he had stomach cancer. I didn't know until we lost him.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm guessing because Final Destination was created by Jeffrey Reddick, professionally, and I know he reveres. I'm guessing that the person you're talking about, Joe, said, do you want to say? I don't know for a fact, because Jeff did not write and direct this last sequel, but he has been brought back on as executive producer, as the creator. So I'd like to think it was probably Jeff who, said to Tony, say something. I don't know, but that's very moving and interesting that's the last thing he says.
That's an excellent point. Who asked him to do that was actually the producer, Craig Perry. So just for the record there.
Okay. Well, that's weird, because I knew Craig Perry 30 years ago as well.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm tempted to... No. He worked in Joel Silver's office, not Pierre David's office. But he did work with Brian Whitten in the same office. Brian, who then went on to be co-executive producer with Greg Nicotero of Walking Dead. So, my God, what a tiny, interconnected, small world this all is. Oh, well, good for Craig for doing that. My guess would have been Jeff, but...
I think also the people there at present at the set were the directors Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein. So it looks like those were the directors of the final.
For my sins, I haven't seen it yet. Is it good? Have you guys seen it?
I haven't seen it yet, but I intend to.
I've never seen any Final Destination movie.
Oh, they're great. I don't know how many of them I watched through, but the first one was great. You should.
We're on the party now at the end here, and which totally reminds me of Hellraiser 3.
Oh yeah,
in the boiler room.
In fact, I remember reading a review much later. I think it was in VHS period, not theatrical release period. But somebody said, this is very difficult because I want to accuse the makers specifically the writer of this movie. I want to accuse them of ripping off Hellraiser 3. Period. The problem is he's ripping himself off because this is the same writer as Hellraiser 3. And I would just like to say, for the record, guilty as charged.
No, but it's great. I mean, it's different. It just has the same feel. But everything that's happening is
interesting. Yeah. I am guilty as charged. Which this was an online review, and I think that was my reply. I think I posted a reply to that review of guilty as charged.
Oh, did you?
But the truth is, actually, I would have to go back and look at my first draft and my second draft. I always had the Emperor's Palace sequence the other multi-death
Mhm.
sequence in the movie. That was in from the get-go. I'm not sure the party sequence was in my first draft, and I
Ah.
think Pierre David, who we mentioned, I think he specifically, like, he didn't use the phrase, could you please rip off your club scene from hell? But that's basically what he said. He said, we need more action at the end in the next draft.
Mm.
Something like I don't know
Yeah.
if he was so naked as to say the club scene in Hellraiser 3, but I got the message.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Well,
oh, I'm
in my
sorry. That was
view,
what I'm
yeah.
so sorry to want to publicize my gag, but I think it's quite good. The person who said ripping blah 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 blah. It's almost the same sequence or something, and my reply was, I just changed the names. So, yeah,
I
which
could
is
see
not
that.
true. But
I could see that, but I also find that the movie opening with the Jinn causing havoc at a party scene and ending with the Jinn causing havoc in a party
right.
scene, it kind of makes
Oh,
sense
sure.
in
Brings
the
it
Yeah.
around full
cyclical.
circle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
That's
that
I
as an
I look.
audience member, I didn't really like think, oh, this is so, I actually was like, oh yeah, it makes sense. Like he gathers up to the places of
Yeah.
power, and then he seduces the person with the most power, causes chaos, and then has to ask them to wish it away, and that's how he gets his way.
Well,
right.
and he just really wanted to follow her sister Shannon, and that's where she was going.
Yeah, yeah. But it's a
Right.
very clever trick that she does here at the end, because she knows she can't wish him away. She can't wish him to destroy himself. So the best way to get the upper hand is to
Is to
hope that
undo time itself.
I know,
Yeah.
which
So I have a question about that.
Oh
So,
yeah, I know. Timey-wimey paradox.
well,
Yeah,
did it
always screw it
rewind
where
everything, and does Alex remember all of the events of this
well,
movie?
that is the problem with
uh,
all time twist
Yeah.
fiction, all
right.
time travel fiction,
Yeah.
because once you undo the
Yeah.
thing that triggered the thing,
Mhm.
you in that changed timeline will no longer have the need to undo the thing that triggered the thing.
Right. Or
Yeah.
the memory of you went through.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like all the Terminator movies. Are they sequels or prequels? Like, who knows?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows what when in this time.
Yeah.
If you change that, then
Yeah.
yeah.
And some of them don't acknowledge Hellraiser, or not Hellraiser, Terminator 3, and some of them do.
Oh, is
Right.
that right? Ah,
Hmm.
I didn't
That's
I
it.
didn't
That's
realize they tied themselves in that many knots.
Well,
But
that's
Yeah.
the thing, right? I mean, that's the thing that they you know, it's always a different team coming back sometimes to recreate another sequel. So
Yeah.
they're gonna come up
right.
with new stuff, and it's not gonna be the same.
Yeah. Well, and they kind of undid the idea that John Connor was the big hero who saves the world. And it's like, well,
Spoilers, I haven't seen all the
people
sequels.
really like Sarah Connors, and so we're going to focus more on Sarah Connors.
Right. Well, that's yeah. Oh, well, that's interesting. That's like the reverse problem we had with Julia and Pinhead.
Right. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, we thought we were going to focus on a female Freddy, but the public decided it was going to be Pinhead.
Right. Yeah.
And
And the
this
And
public
it's
case,
decided it was going to be Sarah. And thus the cosmic balance of male, female, yin and yang was
yeah.
restored between those two franchises. So that's good.
yeah, I was
Maybe one
thinking,
of us went back in time and made that happen, but we have no memory of having made that happen because we're now in the timeline in which that happened.
awkward
This is
silence
why the
ensues.
Yeah.
Mandela
Yeah.
effect.
I'm just watching the Jack the Ripper kill that poor
Oh, is it
security
Jack
guard.
the Ripper, or is it like a homage to that Lon Chaney character from The
Well,
Vampire?
yeah, it has a look of that, doesn't it? And the
Right,
truth
with the
is,
sharpened teeth.
yeah,
Hmm.
is it Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? Is it Jack
Oh,
the Ripper?
yes,
Is it
right.
That's
the
right.
man in the beaver hat, which is what they call the guy in London After Midnight?
Yes.
it's all of them.
Okay.
It's an
Yeah.
Edwardian slasher, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But have we passed the statues yet?
Yeah.
Yes.
She's just
Okay.
now looking at where at the
Now it's
Ahura
the no
Mazda
more
platform.
excuses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make your wish. This is
Yeah.
the time when she's going to
I
have
mu
to
I must
find.
have been plugging the power back in when,
Oh
when the
yeah.
set because I want to say um the statues thing again, this is, fantastic work by KMB because um obviously, it's guys in paint are
Mhm.
the statues.
But they really, really look like statues
They
until you see
really
them
fucking
moving.
do.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, on set they didn't. And every other magic trick that KMB performed, I was completely confident. It was like, oh man, it looks good now, standing here watching it in
Yeah.
real life, and it's going to look great on the movie. The statue thing, which, was in from first draft on because I'd always wanted to do it, ever since I'd seen statues' arms move out in Jean
Yeah.
Cocteau's Orphée decades before. Um, what am I saying? Oh, but yeah, so when I saw it, uh, the paint job was impeccable. The actors were suitably motionless, but standing there on set, I confess, have a feeling of, oh, this isn't going to play. These are
Uh,
obviously guys in a fucking paint job. And then I saw the dailies the next morning, and it's like, oh my God, they look just like statues coming to
yeah.
life. It was great.
Yeah, it's all in the lighting and the way that
Yeah,
they shoot it.
exactly,
It's just
exactly. Yeah, and it's like so much of that stuff becomes it's it's like
yeah,
you learn everything, but you're no longer sort of actively conscious. It's learned responses that become
Yeah.
instinct. And like I'm standing there not having these learned responses, thinking, this just looks like guys in paint. And I don't think for a second Bob or Greg or whoever it was of
Mhm.
their team that was doing this, they just instinctively knew if we use this shade of paint with this tone and light it this way, it
That's
will
great.
look utterly convincing on film. So they just, I mean, obviously they work consciously. I'm not suggesting they're just improvising, but any skill becomes instinctive rather than intellectual eventually. And I think
I
it's a tribute to KMB. That's like, yeah, they just knew that this would work. They weren't sweating it.
I have to say that the her final wish of, in where she's getting the stillness and she's thinking back on everything that she learned, for the past
Oh
day or
yes, the
so.
basketball analogy that I
Yeah, yeah, and
laboriously shoehorned into
stillness.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
what her final wish is not something that I predicted. This whole movie I kept thinking like there's no way out of this, right? She can't kill him.
Yeah.
And so it's like that totally caught me off guard. I didn't I it had it's not something I would have thought of. I think that's
yeah.
great.
I think
Well,
her last wish is
achievement unlocked. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
yeah, it's a fantastic payoff.
Yeah.
The way she outsmarts the Jinn by using his own logic and rules against him. I
Yeah.
think it's empowering, and it's
Well,
showing that
thanks.
willpower can triumph over chaos
Yeah.
and
And there's
fear
no
if
real
you
way
take
he
that
could
stillness
it
moment.
it
It's
makes
very
it
There you
zen.
go. It's
It's very
very
zen.
zen.
it's tough
Yeah,
for him to twist that event in a way that would not be what she intended.
Well, right, right. Yes, and I mean, Andrew's very subtle about it, but I like the fact that you sort of see it work on him.
Yeah.
Hopefully, like you and every other audience member, for a moment, the Jinn thinks, "What?
Yeah, he's
This
smiling at her like,
Ricky
"Well, that you just
Carducci
wasted your
hasn't been
final
drinking
wish."
on the job."
Yeah. He's like,
Um,
"Oh, well, I looks like I just won." He's smiling.
right. And then curses foiled again. I would have got away with it too if it hadn't been for those pesky kids. Um, did God, you'll have to remind me.
yes.
Did they let me call him Carducci or did I have to change it to Torelli? I wish Mickey Carducci hadn't been drinking on the job.
No, it was what's the name that they use?
Torelli, I
Torelli,
think.
Torelli.
Torelli, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so annoying. That's why I put Carducci in Bloodline
Oh, okay.
because Carducci was a tribute to my friend Mark Carducci,
Right.
Yeah.
creator of Pumpkinhead, who died, and so I wanted, along with all the other, long dead, your Blackwoods and your Beaumonts that we mentioned earlier, the writers. I wanted to put a little nod into to Mark Carducci.
Was that Algernon Blackwood?
Algernon Blackwood, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
Charles Beaumont. And then there's two Finneys, because do I mean Jack Finney? Do I mean Charles G. Finney, author
Mm.
of Circus of Dr. Lau? It's tough. But yeah, there was some weird, they have rights and clearances departments on movies where
Hmm.
you can't use certain names. And there was some weird reason where Carducci, uh, I've no idea what it was, but
Oh,
there was a rights and clearance issue. Um,
but it
so
wasn't there for Hellraiser 4.
yeah, well, I guess they had a lazier rights and clearance lawyer
Yeah.
on Hellraiser for
Right.
they, yeah.
I like
But
that.
yeah, so Carducci, I finally got him on the screen
That's
in
right.
Hellraiser.
Carducci. That's why we brought the expert Carducci. Anyway,
Yeah,
I'm,
right,
I'm
right.
Yeah.
quoting lines of the movie out of context, but
Yeah.
I enjoyed the way that she not only it's not just like she survives the Djinn, it's like she outwits him, and I think
Well,
that elevates the whole film.
and now
Right.
we're ending with a song by Motorhead, which is on Jose's shirt right now.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Wait,
Yeah.
I got my
do
shirt.
we end with a song by Motorhead?
Yeah.
You mean like Hellra? You mean
Yeah.
what?
It's not the same song,
No,
but
no, of
it's
course.
of the same era.
I
Yeah.
don't, I don't, oh my God, Lemmy, forgive me.
It's
I
Give Me
don't
Love.
think I
Yeah.
Yeah.
realized at the time it was Motorhead.
Yeah, Give Me Love. Yeah, that's a great song. But again,
You mean I've got
Hellraiser 3.
Motorhead singing songs at the end of two of my films?
Yeah.
Great. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God, I didn't know
Yeah.
that. That's
Well,
hilarious.
well, what a fantastic time we had watching
Yeah.
Wishmaster. I watched this in my new 70-inch TV upstairs
How'd it
last
look?
night.
Oh, yeah.
Actually,
Oh.
yeah, what are you watching, by the way? What is it, the box set that came out 10 years ago, or?
I was watching the Blu-ray that came out a few years ago. But I know that Vestron has a
I was going to say, was it the
Wishmaster.
standalone or the box set of all four movies?
It was the standalone, but there is a
Ah,
box set from Vestron called the Wishmaster Collection that has all four movies
it
in a
does.
Blu-ray. Yeah. And it just came out in 2017, so it's been a while. But
Often you
Yeah.
see on Facebook videos when you're scrolling through them, you'll see a little scene from Wishmaster 2 where he's messing with one of the prison inmates,
yeah,
that wants his lawyer to.
they call him the devil in that
Yeah.
video.
Right.
It's all right. Well,
Yeah, I have to say, I always groaned at that, the go fuck yourself wish.
Yeah. God.
It's
lawyer.
not me. That's Jack Shoulder in
Yeah.
number two.
yeah, but there's a
Like,
scene where he says,
Jack, come on. Yeah.
That's so good. And the lawyer in that clip is just telling him, I think I got a way to clear you from all your charges. And then the wish kicks in and the lawyer starts getting
Yeah.
pain. And
Yeah.
anyway, that's not your movie. That's something else.
Right.
All right. Well, thank
Yeah.
you, Pete, for
Oh, well, thank you
joining us.
guys.
Yeah.
Sorry, sorry for the unexpected pause. I never
No,
keep
it's okay.
thing plugged in. I usually charge it overnight and then can just walk it like all of us, walk it from
Yeah.
room to room. And it hadn't occurred to me that we'd be talking for 3 hours. So
Oh my gosh. I'm so
so
sorry.
sorry about
Yeah.
that.
Sorry about that. We didn't mean to monopolize so much of your time.
Oh God, no, 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 no. I should have simply plugged the thing in before we started. Anyway,
Ah.
this was great as always to
Thank you.
hang out with you guys, and
Do you-
thank you for covering Wishmaster, because I know technically it's outside the aegis of the Barkerverse, but
Well, you make it inside.
I'm the connection. Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I keep saying this
And
every.
now, as we know, it's not just me, it's me and Lemmy. We're the connection.
That's right. Yeah.
Ah, great. Okay.
Kate,
Well,
thank you very much.
Yeah.
And I hope you have a great weekend. And we'll talk soon. Okay.
all right, you bet.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Wow.
And then we're
3
going to
hours.
stop recording and just talk.
Yeah.
right?
Well,
yeah.
Or do you guys need a wrap up? Sorry, you can cut this out.
Oh no, it's
No,
the
no.
credits are just almost over.
Oh,
It's-
sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
I usually wait until the credits are over.
Oh, yeah, that was on me. I'm sorry. But
Yeah, that was on you, Joe. No, I should have kept my stupid mouth shut,
Yeah.
but then I'm not watching the movies.
all right. Well,
Okay, on this part, Jose started saying, in this podcast having no beginning will have no end, even though the credits were still rolling, and we sort of got in an argument about, oh, you can just edit that out. And I'm like, no, the movie's not technically over yet, and so that's not very interesting. So I'm just going to copy over that for right now and just say, coming up next, we've got episode 500, and we still have room for a few more voicemails or videos to add to episode 500. You can do voicemails on our website or send a private message or email if you want to add a short video. You can talk about when your Barker fandom started, when you started listening to our podcast, etc. Thank you. We also, after episode 500, we'll probably be finishing up Jericho Squad 77. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you. Okay, that's it. It's done. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Sorry.
No. But thank you guys. That's great. Pleasure as always.
Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have subscribed or followed our podcast. You can find the Clive Barker Podcast wherever you find audio. Show notes for this episode, as well as news and reviews, can be found at our website at www.clivebarkercast.com. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial podcast and blog that's not affiliated with Clive Barker or Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans. You can chat with us on our Facebook BarkerCast listeners group, our Facebook page, Reddit, Blue Sky, or our Discord server. Have you already bought our book? The BarkerCast Interviews Occupy Midian, available in Amazon hardcover, Kindle, and Apple Books. Join our Patreon and become a patron to get access to exclusive stuff, pick an episode topic, or maybe join in the discussion. You can also buy a t-shirt in our TeePublic store. Just go to teepublic.com/stores/BarkerCast. Leave a voicemail for us on the SpeakPipe link on our blog, and we might put it in the episode. Opening and ending music generously provided by Ray Norrish.
Thanks for listening.